when it comes to collecting movies, there is a whole wide ocean of different things to collect. DVDs, Blu-rays, 4Ks, and one of the things that I wanted to do with this is to show some of the VHSs that I picked up recently. And collecting VHS is something that I wouldn't say I'm a hardcore VHS collector, but when I run into those tapes that I know are kind of sought after, if I can find them at a decent price, or if I really love the movie, or if I've wanted to see it for a while, then I'll get it. And I always love the way that they look on the shelf. And yeah, some of the cover art is great, especially for horror movies that are a lot older. They just have this just really nice quality of sitting on the shelf. And so luckily, these past couple of weeks I was actually able to get some, I guess you would say, harder to find stuff. And I'll actually kind of start out with what I would say was a huge surprise for me when I saw it, is The Regenerated Man. So this is a movie that is actually kind of hard to stumble upon. It's not streaming anywhere. It's a very hard to find movie. And so I was kind of shocked when I saw it. And it's a movie that I've actually kind of wanted to see for a while. And I guess because of the fact that it's so hard to find, let alone in a used media store, it kind of grows this reputation where you really want to see it, and that's what kind of happened with this movie. So this is a movie that's directed by, I believe his name is Ted A. Boas. I believe that's it. But he is actually he directed this, but he was a producer on this movie from 1983 called The Deadly Spawn. And he was I believe he was also a writer on that too. But then fast forward a couple years later, he is the producer on this movie that I actually watched for the first time last year called Metamorphosis, which is stated right here. Metamorphosis, the Alien Factor, which is kind of an unofficial sequel to The Deadly Spawn. The Deadly Spawn, I loved it. It was exactly what I was looking for. Metamorphosis has some amazing effects in it. The stop motion and the practical effects, especially in the beginning when there is this, I believe he's a scientist. He's transforming into this almost cocoon like thing, and it's goopy, it's gross, it's gory, it's an amazing effect. And so this is a movie that's directed by Ted Boas, and I had heard about this movie for a while, and I heard that this is actually, it kind of falls into the realm of body horror, because it's about this scientist who is working on this regeneration formula, and one night these two thugs break in, and they trash the place and are looking for valuables, and they force him to drink the regeneration formula. And I guess what you would say is it kind of turns into almost a riff on the Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde type of story, where during the night he transforms into this monster thing. And it's definitely a lower budgeted movie, but some of the effect sequences are really impressive. Especially there's this this dream sequence towards the beginning of the movie where the main character wakes up and he has this it's almost like this pulsating tentacle shooting out of his heart. That's kind of the best way I could kind of describe it, but it looked incredible. And that's kind of something that I had heard about this movie, is that while it is kind of lower budget, it has some amazing effect sequences in it, and yeah, I can definitely say that, yeah, that's true. This has some very impressive effects to it. So if you're in the mood for kind of a more lower budget, early 90s body horror movie, I'd check it out. This is something that I'm glad I was able to find, because I've been wanting to see this ever since I heard about it last October. So yeah, that is The Regenerated Man. So next up in my tape finds, I was able to find a copy of Truck Turner. I love this movie. So I watched this movie for the first time this year, and I think I stated in a previous video where I was going through a lot of the 70s crime movies. I was going through a lot of the lists that they have on Letterboxd, and this was a movie that frequently came up on that list. And I watched it, and it was amazing. Isaac Hayes in this movie is so badass, and it's just this is one of the most entertaining movies I have ever seen. Yaphet Kotto is also in this movie, and it just some of the lines in this movie are incredible. And if you've seen this movie, then you know it. There's a scene where the former, I guess, ladies of this pimp that Truck Turner killed, one of them kind of takes the reins from the pimp that was killed, and there's this scene near a pool where all the other pimps in the area gather around, and she's introducing all these girls and telling their names, and kind of, I guess, like their almost like their catchphrases, and it is hilarious. This is an amazing movie, and if you have not seen this movie, the song, the main theme song, Truck Turner, is sung by Isaac Hayes, and Isaac Hayes is famous for singing the main theme song to Shaft, and this may be an unpopular opinion, but I like this song more than the Shaft theme song. This song is so catchy, and it's just incredibly entertaining. It keeps moving. There's a death scene in this movie. I won't say who, because it's going to be kind of a spoiler, but it's a hard cut to this character getting blown away through this door, and it hard cuts, and you clearly see that it is a dummy, and I laughed so hard and rewound it and rewound it and rewound it, and it's just, I love this movie. This movie is just absolutely amazing, and if you have not seen this movie, I just put it at the top of your watch list, because it's wonderful. So the last tape on my VHS tapes is Frankenstein Created Woman. So I've, over the years, have tried to go through a lot of the Hammer horror movies, and I've tried to make my way through all the Frankenstein movies and the Dracula movies. I've watched The Mummy, the Curse of the Werewolf, and they're great Halloween October staples. Now, I will say a lot of them do kind of blend together for me, just because a lot of them have the same actors, and the titles of them are not always the easiest to say in the order that they're released in. I mean, I'm not saying that they're bad titles, because they're great. I love the titles of all of these, but they're, sometimes they can be a little bit hard to try and, I guess, memorize when you're first, going through a lot of the Hammer horror collection. And this is one that I haven't seen yet, and I've been wanting to see it. And I know that Scream Factory released a collector's edition Blu-ray of this, but I saw it, and I loved the case of this, and it just seemed like the perfect movie to kind of watch around this time, since I love watching horror movies around September and October. And I was like, this is perfect. This is a Frankenstein movie that I haven't seen, and yeah, A lot of the Hammer horror movies I've really enjoyed. I think my favorite so far has been the first Dracula movie. It has a really good inversion of the actual Dracula story, and and I mean, what can you say? Peter Cushing as Frankenstein and as Van Helsing in the Dracula movies, he's just perfect. And yeah, I'm really excited to check this out. So that's Frankenstein created woman. So now we're gonna veer into one of the more crazier movies that I've seen of lately, and that is The Burning Moon. So this is a movie by I believe his name is Olaf Eitenbach or Eitenbach, uh, and this is a shot on video movie which was released in I think 1993. And before this, I had seen one other of his movies, Premutos, Lord of the Living Dead, and that was to say that it was just crazy is doing it an understatement. I think the last like 30 minutes is just nothing but these people in this kind of basement garage area just killing zombies. Um, and the effects in that movie are really impressive for it being as low budget as it is. And so now we move on to The Burning Moon, which I had heard about for a while, and I actually originally had watched part of this. There was a brief period of time where it was actually on Prime, and I watched part of it, and I don't know or remember why I didn't finish it because it was definitely keeping my attention. Because if you know this movie, this is one of the most gnarliest and craziest and goriest movies I think I've seen lately. So the basic premise is Olaf actually plays this this junkie addict who one evening after having a fight with his parents, he gets high. I think he's a heroin addict, but he gets high, and he's then tasked with babysitting his younger sister while his parents are out. And so he proceeds to tell her two bedtime stories, and that's what most of this movie is. So it's an anthology movie. And the first segment involves this woman who goes out with this guy for a first date, and it turns out that he is an escaped mental patient, and it just gets extremely graphic, very gory, and over the top, and it's just it definitely it's one of those movies that just after when it ends it you kind of want to take a shower afterwards or just kind of pause and be like, okay, I need to process this. And then the second story involves it involves this I believe it's a priest that is going on this murder spree across Germany, and then the townsfolk think it's this other guy, and it gets very, very crazy towards the end, and it has probably the craziest depiction of hell I've ever seen in a movie. This movie is definitely not for everybody. It's a shot on video movie, so it definitely has that feel to it, but I think at least for me, that feel or that look adds to the feeling of just kind of grossness to this movie. And it's a very interesting experience while watching it. So if you're into that type of, I guess, extreme horror, then I would recommend picking this up because I mean, if you're really a hardcore horror fan, I've heard a lot of people talk about this movie, and yeah, I've never experienced anything like it, and I don't know if I'm ever gonna experience anything like The Burning Moon again. So yeah, that's the crazy, weird, The Burning Moon. That's all I have to say about it. So now we're going to kind of shift gears a little bit into the DVDs that I was able to pick up. And so next up, I was able to get Bring Me the Head of Alfredo Garcia. And this is a Sam Peckinpah movie. And this is one of his movies that I've really been trying to savor for the first time to watch it. And I've heard nothing but great things about this, especially from people that I love listening to their recommendations. Um, and I believe that this is his only movie that he had final cut on. I think it is. So I'm really excited to experience this movie. Up until this point, I've seen The Wild Bunch, I've seen Straw Dogs, The Getaway, and all of them were fantastic. I think the Wild Bunch is probably my favorite so far. But yeah, Warren Oates, you can never go wrong with Warren Oates. He's wonderful and amazing and everything that he does, and just this pairing of Warren Oates and Sam Peckinpah, and from what I've seen of this movie, is just, I am really excited to check this out. So last up on the list is actually a personal favorite of mine, and that is Scarecrows. So I was a little late to the show when it came to picking this movie up on Blu-ray. The Scream Factory Blu-ray came out, I think, a couple years ago, but I think it's now out of print. But I was able to find this at a used movie store, and I immediately just grabbed it because this is one of my favorite October movies. I have a really strange love of just scarecrow movies, scarecrow horror movies, especially around October. I think they scratch that perfect itch of that harvest, October, a fall feel, and I love it. And I would say that this and Dark Knight of the Scarecrow are probably the best. Dark Knight of the Scarecrow being just a wonderful and creepy and atmospheric movie that I think everybody should see. This one falls more into the Scarecrow slasher genre, and yeah, it involves this band of criminals who pull off this huge heist, and they're flying over the cornfield and everything, and they also have hostages, and they end up bailing out of the plane, and they parachute into this cornfield, and there's this house that's in the midst of the cornfield, and they start making their way towards the house, and they start encountering these scarecrows who, over the course of the movie and over the course of the night, they come alive and they start killing the criminals one by one. And there are some incredible effects in this movie, and honestly, the mythology of this is extremely well done, and it always keeps growing and growing and growing. Especially what happens with this with one of the criminals that goes missing, and it's just a incredibly tight movie. I think this movie is wonderful, and everybody should at least check it out for themselves, especially during this time, the September October time. If you're especially looking for something a little bit different, a little bit underseen. This will scratch that October itch. So yeah, this is Scarecrows. And yeah, that's it. That's all the movies that I have so far. I love trying to search for movies that I haven't seen, and always trying to find those movies that just are great first time discoveries. So I'd love to hear about movies that you guys have picked up recently, or movies that were a good first time discovery for you, or even like what was the last greatest movie that you've seen. So definitely let me know, and yeah, that's it.